Um, this is the cool thing. Every time there's any aspect, what happens is a sine wave gets created. A sine wave gets created from the primary part of that aspect. So, for example, when Pluto moved into Aquarius, a whole set of sine waves, right, are created at that moment. And so, what you can do is you can, from that moment, track the sine waves going forward, which I did. Okay. And when there's a full moon, a whole set of lunar waves gets lunar and then other planets gets created. And when there's a new moon, and when there's an aspect in your chart, and when you're born, and when you have a progression, when you look at your solar progression, like all of this has sine waves. And so essentially, what astrology is very much like the Schumann resonance that I talk about. Okay, because with the Schumann resonance, we're talking about a non-physical energy in the air that is affecting, or that is engaging with us, or we're engaging with it, because it's between 0 and 40 hertz. The Schumann resonance is clearly in the range of our brain waves. So we don't have a data match like that, to my knowledge, for astrology, but we have our birth charts, which have been created and used for thousands of years, thousands of years. I mean, they were doing this in ancient times, and astrologers were advising kings, and queens, and astrologers advise key people. I saw I saw a meme recently, and it said, billionaires use astrology, millionaires don't. You know, presidents, I'm sure, use astrology. And some events have happened in this country recently, and they coincided with some sine waves that I saw bottoming out in the middle of this summer. And I believe I talked about it around when Pluto moved into Aquarius. But I'm going to explain to you now where we're at. Because when Pluto moved into Aquarius, the lunar wave for that event, bottomed in the middle of this summer. And so I thought, wow, like maybe something's going to happen, because when waves bottom out, let me explain. Don't get stressed, okay? Because I'm going to explain what's happened, because it's happened already, I think. So when these waves bottom, what that means is they go to a zero declination. So essentially, a sine wave is like up and then down. Well, down, when it's at the very bottom, that's at a zero declination. So essentially, what I have determined is that in people's lives, when they have a lunar wave, or the sine wave for planetary energies in their chart, when it bottoms, what happens is that we are invited by divinity to let go of something. And we're invited by divinity to let go of something that we didn't want to do by ourselves. Like, we were holding on tight, okay? And we did not want to let go. We did not want to let go. And sometimes, this is just this. Okay, so Pluto, when it moved into Aquarius in the spring, and some of the full and new moons, they showed lunar declinations bottoming, the sine wave bottoming in midsummer. And so I was like a little stressed about that. Personally, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen, right? Because we're going to have to let go of something. But just a miraculous thing has happened that I didn't expect. And I made a video on this. It's like what happened, what we let go. It wasn't a physical shift in our reality, so much as it was, I called it an earthquake of the human psyche. We have shifted. It's like all of us together experienced some kind of energy earthquake that shifted our fields. It was in energy. It was affecting our energetic states of being, our energy fields. And it's perceptible to me. And you know when it was the most intense was around the solstice through the 23rd of July and the of June, sorry, and then through the end of that week. The week of the solstice. So here's the thing, when you have your um, lunar waves or planetary waves in astrology dip to zero declination, so to the bottom of the sine curve, what that means is we are invited, and I just say by divinity, to let go of something that we didn't want to let go of, but it is in our highest good to let go of. Okay. And it can be more and more painful if we try to hold on. If we gently just let it go and let it be okay that somebody is moving out of our life, that a job is ending, that you're moving to a new place, whatever it happens to be. So here's what happened. There was a triangle on the chart, and it has been on the chart for a long time. In fact, since I started doing astrology videos, this effect has been in place, and it's going to be in place for a little while because the celestial bodies involved move very slowly. So Pluto right now is at 29 of Capricorn, but Sedna is at 0 of Gemini, and it's going to be at 0. Not sure if this is the first moon where it's at 0, but being at 0 is a big deal because it is conjunct the star Alcyone, which is in the Pleiades. And some people refer to Alcyone as the central sun. For some people, this is the central sun, and I would say energetically or from a higher dimensional perspective, maybe even. Some people say that the Pleiades is a gateway to Earth somehow, that when souls are coming through to Earth, that they go through the Pleiades. I've heard that as well. I'm not real I don't really feel that close with the Pleiadian energy, but I have so many friends that do. Everyone is from the Pleiades. What can I say? So yeah. So these are some of the things that I have heard about Alcyone and the Pleiades. Now, there's also renegades from the Pleiades, so just remember it's not all good guys. And here's the thing, okay? For some reason, when Alcyone is aspected, there can be negative situations with children. If you go back and you look at the ancient um, texts about the stars, and what has been said about them, this is what you will find. Okay. And Pluto is in a trine with Sedna. Sedna is the asteroid representing the wounded child. Okay. She goes through a whole state of victimhood. And in my other videos where Sedna is mentioned in the last 3 months, I've gone into this in detail. And she transforms. She ends up going to the bottom of the ocean. So she goes to the bottom of the sine wave. Okay. She goes through the entire experience of victimhood, hits the bottom of the ocean, and then rises up as a goddess. Do you see how her story totally relates with sine waves and how energy flows, right? And so Pluto's been aspecting her. And Pluto is a hard ass. Excuse me. He's a hard ass, man. He's not going to let you get away with anything. And if you're in victimhood and Pluto aspects something important on your chart, he and you are going to get to the bottom of it. And it can be easy or it can be painful. It's probably never going to be easy, but it can be painful or it could be more painful. It can be challenging, and you walk through the challenge with as much of your dignity intact as possible, if that's even possible, facing the incredible force of Pluto. Or you just have to let it go and know that you are a pure soul in human form. And that is the only truth that I can know that's real. Right? So that's what Pluto does, and when he trines Sedna, he's actually supporting her to come out of victimhood and come back into relationship with the soul, and that's why this aspect has just wowed me, since I started making videos. I think that was I'm not sure. It might have been late 2021, on astrology. So it's just wowed me, because Pluto is being supportive in this role. And that's an incredible gift for us to come out of victimhood. Well, here was what the triangle was. The triangle was Pluto, Trine, Sedna at 0 Gemini, Trine, Ceres. And Ceres has been at the late degrees of Virgo, then she was at the early degrees of Libra. What does that mean? Ceres is the divine mother. She's the goddess that goes down to the underworld. Again, the sine waves. She's she's a divine mother. Okay. So when she's expressing her love, she's up high in the sine wave, right? When life is good, it's spring, flowers are blooming, the chicks are hatching, she controls the seasons. And so you go up, okay? And then what happens is she has to go down into the underworld, so she goes down the sine wave to the bottom. When she gets to the bottom, she's completely naked, facing, you know, the awful truths. And then she gets her daughter and comes back out of the underworld. She is strong and wise enough to be able to do that. And how does she do that? The inherent divinity within her guides her. So it can represent a mother rescuing her daughter. It can also represent a man or a woman going within the self and accessing and healing the inner child who's been traumatized and bringing the soul that's trapped in that energy, and up and integrating it back into your life experience, to your body, to the life experience of this life as a living human with a living soul. Or, that part of the soul returns home. It kind of just depends on what's going on for you with whatever happened. So this is the triangle that's broken. Ceres has now moved out of range of trine with Pluto. And she is, she's about 8 degrees away now. So for an asteroid, that's really far. Um, now, yeah, there's another asteroid that's going to move into range, but I don't know how long that's going to take because it tends to move slowly, and that's the asteroid for abundance and for the goddess Abundancia. It's okay. Okay, it's okay. All right. So, so that's the powerful triangle that broke. Now, are there other important things going on? Yes. The other thing that's going on is the moon has recently squared. The transit moon has squared both Saturn and Neptune. And it's interesting because I like to see the positive and the negative. Like I like to transmute energy, right? And so what these squares can do, can they bring challenge? Yes. Can they give us energy? Yes. So the way that we get energy from the challenge is that we accept that it's happening. Okay. We accept whatever the challenge is, and then we work with the divinity within to get stronger, right? We work with that connection within. And the other thing that's going on here with this new moon is Uranus is square Lilith by 1 degree, and Lilith is in Leo. So this is going to challenge us to really step forward in our personal lives because, there's plenty of people who've written about Lilith in the negative, and in my view, in a distorted way in some or many cases. But here's the positive of Lilith, and she's conjunct Venus. So I think that emphasizes this and elevates Lilith in Leo, right? The sign of the individual. So this is affecting us as individuals. Venus representing what we truly care about, what we truly love, right? What we're willing to go to war over. Lilith is essentially, I see her as a queen. I call her the dark queen, the queen of the shadow side of your personality. All of us have Lilith in our astrology chart, just one of the other aspects in astrology. But what she represents in the positive, right, in the elevated state, is the strong and uplifted woman or feminine energy that has the capability to be facile in the non-physical, to understand what is going on in the non-physical when protection is needed. How to protect your home, how to protect your family, how to protect your children, right? That is, from women, that's, Lilith, in my view, in the non-physical. Now, there's a lot of women who are distorting, in my view. I've seen that unfortunately, I've seen it quite a lot, all right, in real life, where they're taking this type of energy and because I don't know why they do it, why they're doing it, but they're taking it to the dark side, and I do not consent to that, okay? But it's happening in a lot of women. I don't know why there's this trend right now, but I think it has something to do with the energy of Dionysus and women being under some women coming under a sort of spell or insanity or trance. But that's a story for another day, because I'm focusing on the positive side here with Lilith conjunct Venus, right? In the negative, that would be, I don't want to talk about that. In the positive, it's how do I protect what's mine? Not just from the physical, right? Venus is very much about what's valuable, but also what's valuable in the physical. She rules Taurus. But Lilith is a perfect complement to assist with that. They talk about the mama bear, and Ceres very much represents that energy of the mama bear, right? You don't want to mess with the mama bear. And to me, that's what Lilith is in the non-physical. And I think it's about time for us as women to reclaim these capabilities and stop listening to those who tell us that it can only come from a negative place, power. That's a lie. And that there's something wrong with it, because what happens is people who want to be good, who want to come from the light or whatever, they don't want to be bad. I know I'm using these terms and it's a little boring to me now, but yet this is what we've lived. Well, I don't want to do that because it's bad. A lot of times I have people say to me, especially if they're coming from the Christian side, they want to understand, how is this not bad, to do energy reading or, and I'll explain to them, I'm working with God, the Most High, the Creator, the source of the soul, the God of Jesus Christ, in my view. And I work where I was taught, energy, as I described earlier this morning. I was taught a lot of what I do by Jesus and by other guides. I won't go into the whole thing. I talked about it this morning on that live, the meditation live. But here's the thing, okay? This is ours. This is our capability as living human beings, that we can have dominion in alignment with divine will, with God's will through us. Jesus had that. He casted negative forces out of people, and he told us we had the authority to do that. That's in scripture. So if we have the authority, it's about time we learned how to do it. And this is a core and key role of women, in my view. Now, do men have this as well? Yes. But, the male side of it, I don't think has been as distorted because I think that there is a general respect for the concept of the shaman, which in my view is a traditional male role. The role of the woman as mystic doing these things is what has really gotten distorted. And as women, it's time for us to recognize this. I was with a group of friends. We were doing meditation, and my girlfriend was leading it. And, you know, um, one of the people brought up, well, men really have to shift their energy. And it wasn't my thing. And I just wanted to sit and be there and not, just be in the meditative space that I was in. So I didn't say anything, but I'm saying it here because I've meant to talk about this, but when I've tried to schedule my Wisdoms of Women discussion, amazing things happen on the Schumann, and I did that instead. But it's time for us as women to shift, and it's my view that the men are now waiting for us to shift and to get our act together in this way. And the way that you do these things in a way that is godly, um, and I've already defined God, right, earlier, but the way that you do that in alignment with divine meaning of God through you, is you learn how to connect. And I shared this morning that Jesus was my guide for this, okay? And I got perfect advice, in prayer from him to do this. So you do prayer, you do meditation, you do energy work, and you learn to connect with the living soul that the creator gifted you. Okay. And then you do your protection work from that place. And that's where our authority lies. That is discussed in scripture. It comes from the divinity that we are and no other place. And a lot of people who work with these lower beings, okay, it amazes me. All right. I'm going to give you one story where I was chatting with I was chatting with a gentleman who was involved in like, you know, starting companies, the financial area in general. Okay, that's pretty vague. And it was so interesting because I was explaining an experience to him that I had. For some reason it was related to our discussion, and it was about energy machines. And he started talking about the energy machine, and he said, "Was it," and he gave me a couple of details, and I said, "Yes," and I knew there was no way he could know that. And then I immediately saw that he was being advised in the non-physical. Now, was it of the light or was it of the darkness? Well, I was to find out because I dreamed about it. I was given a dream about it. And then I noticed the energy. Why? Because these are the wisdoms of women. This is what we have access to, and men too. Okay, but the reason I'm focused on women so much is I think that it's time that we reclaimed this part of us, the mystic, the priestess, the woman in the home who cares for the family from the home. The home is our place, our center, our point of power, right? Where we make the safe space in the non-physical for our families. All right. And the man complements that with his physical. Now, this is a traditional role, but we have forgotten, and it's hurt us and it's hurt the children. It's really hurt the children to not have this protection. It really has hurt them, right? And I don't consent to that. I'm going to not tell stories about that, but I could. And I'm sure many of you could too, you know? And this basic structure in the family home is to, protect everyone involved and uplift everyone involved. And when we focus on the outliers too much, we do a disservice to our own selves, and we lose something. We lose something that's important, that is very, very valuable. And so Uranus square Lilith, this is the energy to face something, and not just face it. Lilith acts, and nothing stops her when she when she wants to roll out. Now, can she be a huge bitch? Yes. Okay. Who hasn't done that? That's a woman. I mean, I have. Okay. But anyway, so the North Node is at 0 of Taurus, okay? So that is incredibly powerful. It's very wild and greedy energy, um, focused on the Earth and the resources of the Earth. So we need our connection with Lilith to defend what's ours here, to stand up for ourselves, because we've got the head of the reptile focused on Earth and Earth's resources with this new moon. Now, the head of the reptile can also be, or the head of the dragon, can also be a new way of approaching these things. The old energy shifts into a new position, a new orientation. You know, will that be for, good, or will it be for something else? I just don't know. We're going to have to see how this plays out. What I do know is that there are 2 yods in this new moon chart as well. One to Pluto, and we've just talked a lot about Pluto. Um, Hold on. Actually, you know what? The yod to Pluto is just in the San Francisco area. The other yod, which is for everyone, is Saturn. And Saturn is aspected by 2 asteroids, Ceres, so she makes her influence felt again, the Divine Mother, and Varuna, justice. Mamas are going to get their justice here. And mamas care about the spiritual structure, right? Saturn. They want the structure of this world to deliver personal justice for themselves, for their families, right? For their men, for women, for all the people that are important to them in their lives. That's what the mothers want. Beyond the school board meetings that you guys have all seen, there are so many groups of women coming together, and men. Okay, it's not just women, but there's so many groups coming together, that want the world to value us, right? To value the living human, just living their day-to-day life. And I think that it's really amazing that at this sine wave dip for the energy of Pluto into Aquarius that I mentioned earlier in the astrology section, right? I said that we had to let something go. Well, we usually look at these things with, oh my God, what could happen, right? In the negative. And I'll be honest, I was going there. Okay. I was like, brace for, but no, what we're letting go of our naivete. We're letting go of our victimhood. We're letting go of the need to believe everything is fine. Everything is fine. No, it's not. Okay. Are we letting go of our innocence? No. We need to let go of these things to recover our innocence, to recover the connection with soul, and to truly live in alignment with God's will for each of us as an individual, you know? Um, and so what happened is this incredible movie came out, The Sound of Freedom. I did go see it. I'm not going to hear on YouTube, but I highly recommend it. I only went to the last hour because I thought 2 hours would be too intense for me. Um, and I'm kind of read on the topic to a certain extent, not as much as others. But that is impacting people in a huge way. You're getting people going on social media crying, saying, we've got to stop this. We've got to act. People are losing their naivete. They're losing their ignorance. And I never expected that this would be what happened when the Pluto energy bottomed, but it makes so much sense. As Pluto moved, as Ceres moved off of this trine with Pluto, it just generated this incredible energy. And I talked before about how people in high positions use astrology to make, decisions. Was it a coincidence that this movie came out right as that triangle was breaking? Okay. Or is it not a coincidence? I don't know. Is it just in the flow, right? That's how it should be. I don't know, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. So do you see how at the bottom of the sine wave, we let go of what divinity, it's like a yod in astrology. A yod is the finger of God, right? Pointing to what the divine says, the divine of God, what God says, focus on this in your life, focus on this, in the world, however that expresses for you, right? And so, so the letting go, right? The bottom of the sine wave, God decides what we're going to let go of ultimately in our lives. And we are having to let go of our innocence, not our innocence, but our ignorance. And to recover our innocence. Innocence is purity of connection with God, with the divine, with the creator, with one's own living soul, right? And if you've ever been traumatized, one of the things that, if you've been traumatized, one of the things that you long for is to have your purity back again, right? All I want to feel is just me. I don't want to feel the influence of all that again. Well, how can we clear that from our energy field? How can we clear it from our society, from our world? If we aren't willing to drop the blinders, right, that have been or the shadows over our eyes and see. And we can see from the perspective of having that authority within from the divinity that we are, and then you can watch that movie and make declarations, say it in prayer, and you can obviously make choices to act in your life depending on what you're called to do. But I do it in energy. This is part of our capability as living humans to create this way. We have the capability. I think there was, do you remember that movie, that the TV show, The $6 Million Man, where they made a robotic arm for him or legs and he ran super fast and they were saying, we have the capability. Well, guess what? We have the capability without any additions, without any help from anyone else. Because between you and God, between you and your own soul, you can command from that authority. Now, where you do it, the way that you do it without bringing karma to yourself, without um, creating density in your relationships or power over or being in power under, the way that you do it is you ask that your declarations align with the highest good, right? As determined by God, not by you. So that means you don't know what the highest good is and you essentially give it to God. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you consciously do it from that place of connectedness with the soul, which is in the heart. And I talked about that in detail in my last two meditation lives. And then let's see, so highest good, the soul, and you intend that what you ask aligns with divine will. I ask that it aligned with divine will through me. Okay. And what this does is, as humans, sometimes we're like, yes, it's really this. And then it's actually not, right? God has a greater plan. And we limit the ability of the divine to work miracles for us, of God and our own soul, to create and work miracles for us when we limit our vision over this. And so that's why I give it to God. Um, and, there's also the possibility for shocking communications to come out here this month, because Uranus is in a wide trine, not wide. Uranus is in a wide with square with Mercury, and Jupiter is in an exact square with Mercury. So Jupiter and Uranus are 11 degrees apart. Okay, so as Jupiter gets closer to Uranus, that can create some big changes, right? But we're not there yet. We're 11 degrees away. You got time. You got a little breathing room here. Okay, use the energy of the time, in the way that serves your highest good, right? As your impulse, and from your connection with divinity. And the new moon is in Cancer, right? It's at 24 of Cancer. That's the moon and the sun are going to be at 24 degrees. And so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be trine Neptune retrograde. And thank God for this, that we get some relief from the illusion, delusion, and the shocking the shocking spiritual stuff, all right? That's happened now here in this part of the full moon, but in July. But this is going to allow us to have to transmute these things to the positive spiritually, if that's our choice, okay? Because that's the energy that's out there. And I just want to one other thing to say about the Saturn yod in this new moon, because it comes from, as I said, Varuna, who's the god of justice, who binds sinners, and it comes from Ceres. Okay, so and Varuna is in Leo, and so there's a generation that was born with. So this is the grandparent generation right now that has, for the most part, the grandparent generation that has Pluto in Leo. They were all born with Pluto in Leo, okay? And Varuna, justice, is not only in Leo, but moves so slow, it's gonna be in Leo for a very long time. And in my view, this is really going to activate the older folks, okay? It's really gonna activate that. A lot of these people were in this whole activist energy when they were younger, and maybe it'll even cause them to look at this in a new way. But I think the older people are going to surprise us and surprise you, surprise me. I really do. I do, because of that. Because, Verena's going to go through and conjunct every one of their Plutos, right, as it moves through the 30 degrees of Leo. And it's only at 6 right now. It's been there for quite a while. And, Hygeia is the asteroid for health and wellness, is in quincunx with the moon. And so I'm guessing that's a spiritual challenge. And I'm guessing that's one of the places that's going to be activated for justice, because Venus has recently really opposed Hygeia. She's in a wide opposition now, but now Lilith is opposing her. So people who have been medically injured, or people who have been injured from lifestyle issues, people who've been injured from cultural lifestyle issues, or cultural choices that they made that were rooted in the culture, right? That were really advocated by the old culture when Pluto was in Capricorn before it came into Aquarius. With Lilith opposing Hygeia and Hygeia in retrograde and review, we're going to see some people talk about that and be pissed off, because Lilith can be a bad bitch, man. She can just, if she's mad, watch out, right? Watch out. But this is not in the negative. This is, sometimes you've got to bring that as a girl or a woman, right? You got to do that. Sometimes you got to bring the bad bitch and just be that for a moment. So, whatever works for you in that moment, whatever you're called, sometimes I'm called to embody that. And when I am, I do it and I just let it go. I just let it go. I don't feel bad about it. Why? Because that's a divine right I have to express that energy. And when I'm doing it, it's usually in some kind of protective fashion or calling out fashion. that, I've been called to do from within myself, from my soul level guidance.